and then we'll do the example program. Okay, so everybody got put to work. We're all using the same bucket. If you're doing this on your own, you would use your own bucket. So we got all this stuff in here. And so we have all these files. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to show you put, and I'm going to show you get, and I'm going to show you list. So we have put right here. So now we've changed the bucket to just be this bucket. Normally this would be appid.appspot.com, but we're just using this bucket. Otherwise it's the same, you still have to do this crazy stuff and this crazy stuff. So what I'm going to do is create a function called getContext. Let's say getCloudContext. And you will hand it, what's it going to need? I think just a request. And it will return you a...
It only actually needs the contact, path entry context.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. And it returns you another context, and that's the cloud context.
Contacts all the way down.
Yep. And so we're just going to copy this.
That's starting to look like Java.
Yeah. No, I was talking to Bob about that. This is most Go APIs. They try to avoid this. They call it stuttering.
Yeah.
Context. They try to do something where, for example, you say strings.split. You don't say strings.splitString because that stutters. And so they try to do that, but in this case it is context.context, so it stutters. That's unfortunate. Anyway. And I'm just going to return it, okay? And that's going to make this a little easier. It's still slightly painful, but... Oops. What am I doing wrong? Oh, yeah. Okay. Make sense? All I did was pull it out into a function, so now I can just say get cloud context to get my cloud context. So this now becomes a lot simpler than it used to be. Okay? So yes, it is really complicated in there, and the way we start the server is really complicated, but actually writing the code is not that complicated. Yeah. So handle put, we create a new writer. This is the name of the file, so everyone was able to see if you change this to a different name, you get a different file in the bucket. And then I use write string. So you can just put any string you wanted in here, and it would write that. And then you can close it, and remember we're checking. So putting, you do it that way to do a get. Let's look at that. So I'm going to add a get. So we have handle get here. So handle get. I'm going to need the context, so get that. And I'm going to need the cloud context, so I'm going to get that. Okay. So I want to make a reader. So I'm going to say storage.newReader. Get with the cloud context, the bucket, and a file. So this bucket seems to be happening a lot. So I'm going to make him a global variable.
Or usually constant.
Yeah, I did this string. So I just pulled out the bucket name. In fact, I'm going to rename that bucket name. Okay. So now I have a reader. It's actually a read closer. And let's just, I don't know, what should we do with it? So I can read a file. I can just send it to the client. How would I do that?
Right to the response.
Maybe that. I could just do that, right? So copy the contents of the file to the response. I could do that. So let's see if that works. I need to close this computer. sense? So get a reader from the storage, Google Cloud Storage, and then send it to the response.
So the reader, what happens on defer if the thing you're calling returns an error?
We're throwing away.
So if you call something that returns an error, it just throws it away?
We're,
Well, you never get to 57.
we say defer, close. This close could return an error, we're just throwing it away.
But
Oh, you're saying this? We return before
No.
we get here. So
the close, if you defer something that returns an error, there's no way to see the error.
no, we're throwing away.
Correct.
Because we're not
Correct.
saying it.
Unless you wrap it in an anonymous function that gets in this.
I mean, yeah, we could. I don't really want to do that.
Well, it's just a question.
Yeah,
I mean,
it gets rid of the error. You don't,
It throws it away by default.
yeah.
And at that point, you already have errors anyway, so.
Yeah, for this it doesn't matter so much because I'm not running the server. So now instead of go out serve, we run this crazy thing.
Yeah, no joke.
There you go. So it read the file off of Google Cloud Storage and printed it out here. So let's double check that works. I'm going to say works here. I'm going to go to put. Definitely not going fast, is he?
I think it's only authentication.
Probably. There it is, works. Okay, so it is putting files on the Google Cloud Storage and reading. Okay, so to read, you use new reader, right? We just say storage.newReader, give it the bucket name and the file, and then you can get a reader, and you can do whatever you want with it. We could use a scanner to read it line by line. We could send it to MD5 to calculate the MD5 of it. We could do anything we can do with readers that we've already seen before. In fact, I could compress it with gzip or something, right? You could do whatever you want. Okay, so how do we see the contents of the bucket? Okay, so if I know the name of the file, which often I do, then this is probably all you need. But sometimes you don't know the name of the file. Sometimes you're trying to use Google Cloud Storage as with folders. You'd like the idea of, here's a bunch of files and I put them in a common place. And so Rusty's actually already done that by creating a folder in our bucket called Rusty. Okay. Remember, this isn't quite a folder because Google Cloud Storage Object Store doesn't really have directories, but they have the support for you know, it's sort of like, okay. And they have a nice UI here that shows it that way. Okay. So sometimes I'm going to list. So I'm going to say handle list, res, HTTP, response writer, rec. List. Okay. So let's go look at the docs. I guess searching for storage is not the best. It's a really common word. Okay. So down here, list objects from the bucket. You can specify a query to filter the results. Q is nil, no filtering. So let's look at everything. Query, you do list objects. And then you range over the results, and then you do this. So here's the thing. Buckets can contain lots of files, millions of files. So it would not make sense for list objects to return you a list of all of the objects, because that would be a huge slice. Millions of entries. That might mean hundreds of megabytes of space needed just to get the list. So instead what we do is we get a number of them at a time. And the next link gets the next batch. So this is like a page query, okay? So we get some number of them at a time. And part of the options to query you can say anything. So that's what they're saying, paginated through all objects. So we're getting a few at a time, okay? And that's actually probably what we want. Pretty rare to like list every single file. But we could, but We probably only want to keep it 10. So this makes it a little more complicated because we can't just list objects. We have to list them and then do the next and the next and the next. Does that make sense? Kind of like an iterator. Okay?
Wait, say that again, so what happened?
Yeah, so when we list objects, it gives us the list of the file names and stuff, and file size and some other information. But it doesn't give us the whole list. It only gives us a paged number.
Okay,
Maybe it gives us 10.
okay,
And then the next 10, and then the next 10.
okay.
And so that's why this is in a loop. So this query equal objects next is passed over here. So it starts out as nil, and then it's passed in, and then it's set. And so that's how it's keeping track of where you left off. And we can see the query type here. You can set various things. So for example, I can change how many are returned each time I call list objects. You can also do this kind of stuff.
So that would eventually get all of them, but it just in chunks, like paging.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so here's the prefix and the delimiter. And so the idea is that I have a URL. So I have the Golang bootcamp. And then I had in there, there was the Rusty folder and I forget what it was, something about that. Okay. This, so this part here, that would be the prefix. And this, that would be the delimiter. Okay. So we just commonly use slash as a delimiter. So this is why I'm saying it's not quite like folders. Because the API is such that you could use any prefix, you could use any delimiter, and so. But if we just stick to standard conventions, we'd use slash for the delimiter, prefix would be the folder we're going to look at. And it will basically behave the way we expect, okay? But yeah, read that comment if you want the specifics, right? But let's just list the root, and so we'll just not use a prefix.
So how would you do it if your prefix had more than one slash? Like could you have, I want to prefix a few folders in, so to speak? Yes.
That'll be, the whole thing will be in the prefix.
Okay, so it's everything up to the last.
Yeah, like if I'm looking for A/B/C,
Okay, okay.
this
That's
would be
all.
the prefix, or actually,
C is the. Okay.
and I'm looking at folder C.
Right, got
Now
it.
you use the delimiter, so it says results will contain only objects whose name aside from the prefix do not contain delimiter. Objects whose name aside from the prefix contain delimiter will have their name truncated after the delimiter returned in prefixes. Duplicate prefixes are omitted. Optional. Okay, so what does that mean? It means if I had inside of this folder D and it had E.txt, and then I had F.txt inside of it directly. What this is going to return me is, and if I did this as the prefix, and I said delimiter equal to slash, it's going to give me D and F.txt. In other words, it doesn't give me the e-text, it gives me the prefix of the folder. So using this, I can know folders and files. Because folders will be they'll be, what do they call it? Truncated, okay? They'll be truncated. So you'll just have D with a slash after it. And they'll all be collapsed. So if I had G.txt in there, I just get one D slash. And then I get all the files. Does that make sense? So I can use this to list the contents of a single folder. So even if there were a million files inside the D folder, I only get one D entry and one unknown files. Okay. So we'll see.
So in that same slice, it would be D slash would be 0 index, and then E.txt would be 1, and F.txt would be 2. And, is that right?
No, it's not recursive. If you use the delimiter, it's not recursive.
Okay.
It only goes, it says, for things that have the delimiter, so for things that are subfolders, you just show the subfolder name. And if you want to see their contents, you would do another query to get that. Right? It's like doing ls or dir inside of a folder. It just shows you, it does show you the subfolders, but it doesn't show their contents, really. Now you could
Sure. Change it to.
just take out delimiter entirely, and it will show you all of them.
Okay.
But, yeah. So we'll just do it without delimiter, okay? So that's like a full list of the entire bucket. So we need context, and we need a cloud context. And now we're going to say storage dot list objects, context, bucket name, and query. So it's, oops, not a worry, query. So we're going to make a query, and it can be nil, so it's just going to start out nil, right? Because I didn't give it anything here. There's no equals. So this is a pointer to a storage query, and it starts out nil, so that's what we're going to pass in here. What does that return? So it returns what do they call it? Pointer to objects. So, and possibly an error. So if there's an error, we'll send that back. And that could happen if you don't have access or whatever. Okay, so I'm listing all of the contents of this bucket. It's going to return obs, which is a pointer to an object. So let's look at that. See that? Pointer to an object. It has within it results, next, and prefixes. Okay. So results represents a list of object results. Prefixes represents prefixes of objects matching but not listed up to and including the requested delimiter. In other words, folders and files. And then an object has all this stuff. This is like the file info. It tells me the name of the file, what bucket it's in, the content type, a bunch of other stuff, things like size. That's all useful information. And then dates, like when it was updated. So I can just loop over, let's say, range obj.objects. What is it? Okay. Sorry, it was results. Cloud context. Okay, so now I'm going to loop over each one and I'll have a single object for each one. And let's just print that to the response. Okay. So we're going to list the whole bucket and then we're going to loop over each one and print it to the response. I got to add that to my. Okay, so I added my route. So now it'll call this if I go to /list. So let's see if that works. There we go. So it listed the contents of the bucket. You can see since we added all those files, there's a bunch of contents in the bucket, right? And you can see inside there is all this stuff. I mean, there's the bucket name, the bucket name here, the name of the file, what the type of the file is, because we didn't set a type, it defaulted to application.octet stream. I think I told you guys that once, that that's a pretty common default. And then there's ACL stuff, and there's a bunch of things. That's some sort of easier information. So everybody understand that this is like doing ls in your folder. That's what we've done here. Okay. And so, you know, if we just wanted the name, we can just say the name. And we just get the name. Or we could get the size or whatever. We could build a table, right, of HTML, just using templates. Everybody understand? So that's actually pretty much, there's other things we can do. There's like a copy that would copy within a bucket, and that avoids having to like take the data out and put it back in. Just sort of copy inside. But these tend to be the things we do. We put and get and list, okay? And using that, you can do a lot, okay? Because remember all those programs we built at the beginning, we would often read in a file, do stuff, and write out a file. And now we can do the same thing. We can read in a file, do stuff, and write out a file. And so we can build any of those programs now using Google Cloud Storage, okay? So, any questions about that? Okay, so the example program, and I briefly described before, was we want a page with an upload form. And so you select a file, and you upload it. That's going to put it inside the bucket. We should also have a page that allows you to see the list of files in the bucket. And then finally, one that you can click the link in that list, and it will download the file. Everybody understand? Okay, the only thing I ask is, since we're all using the same bucket, put things in your own folder. So just, add your data before the... But otherwise, we should be okay. So let's work on that, and we'll work on it after lunch, too.